Hi, Carl Valeri here, and I'm a FAA safety team lead representative out of the Tampa FISDO. And this is the topic of the month for February 2015, personal minimums. All links mentioned in this video can be found at expertaviator.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel while I'll be putting up all these topics of the month. That's at YouTube/expertaviator. In this presentation, we'll take a few minutes to discuss the concept of personal minimums. We'll talk about assessing your pilot and aircraft performance to define your personal minimums in various environmental conditions. And we'll talk about adjusting those minimums in response to specific conditions. A man's got to know his limitations. Clint Eastwood as Dirty Harry said it 40 years ago, and it's still true today. But how do we know what our limitations are? Our pilot capabilities are not fixed in stone. Our ability to cope with wind and weather changes from year to year, day to day, and even hour to hour. That's why many successful pilots develop personal minimums for all their flying activities. Chapter 8 in the FAA's Risk Management Handbook shows us how to set personal minimums. Parameters to consider are associated with the acronym PAVE. We'll discuss the meaning of the letters and the curious case of the misaligned V in the following slides. P represents the pilot. A stands for aircraft. V represents the environment within which we'll be operating. And E has to do with external pressures and distractions. We'll take a more in-depth look at each of these in the following slides. To assess pilot capabilities, we want to look at certification level, total experience including time in make and model, and recent experience, overall and in make and model. Pilot health is obviously important and should be a no-brainer, but we include it here because a recent study found over-the-counter or prescriptions in post-mortem toxicology screens of 80% of pilots in fatal accidents. We're not saying those drugs were cause of the accidents, but surprisingly high percentages does make us wonder about what medical conditions these pilots were treating and how those conditions may have affected pilot performance. Fatigue is another big issue these days. Accident investigation data show that fatigue is often a pilot performance degrading factor. Finally, we have stress. We'll also address this under external pressures, but internal, self-imposed. Stress is something most pilots live with, and if it's excessive, it can contribute to reduced pilot performance. Naturally, we want to consider aircraft, performance parameters with respect to the mission, range, instrumentation, navigation, and weather avoidance equipment must also match the mission. And of course, pilots must carefully consider the environments they fly in. Topography, runways and approach aids, wind and weather, lighting conditions. All of these together provide environmental challenges on every flight. There are many external pressures when we fly. Employers and passengers can exert enormous pressure on pilots to complete their missions on time, regardless of changing conditions. And we've seen accidents that could have been prevented if the pilot had only purchased 10 gallons more of that unexpectedly expensive fuel at the destination airport. We've also seen accidents where the pilot should have gone to the expense of remaining overnight, but took off into darkness and marginal weather instead. Developing a personal minimums document is a matter of assessing your pilot experience and comfort level with respect to various mission and environmental conditions. You'll complete several tables like these, and together they'll comprise your personal minimums. Once you've established your personal minimums, you can adjust them for specific conditions, as we can see here. One caveat, and it's very important. If you're going to adjust a previously determined minimum, always do so in a more conservative direction. In other words, if you want less conservative minimums, you must acquire pilot and aircraft capability to ensure safety. An example would be flight operation that wants to operate to Category 2 approach minimums. They must have a specially trained crew and navigation equipment, as well as recent experience to fly the Cat 2 approach. Finally, once you've documented your personal minimums, validate them with your favorite flight instructor. Your CFI can coach you to your peak performance, and you can win a Wings Proficiency Award in the process. Well, here's the URL for the Aviation Risk Management Handbook. You could leave it on the screen, but you can also get these links at my website, expertaviator.com, and also go to FAAsafety.gov and FAA.gov to pull down all these for free. These are all free. Well, I appreciate your listening to this topic of the month for February 2015, personal minimums. Again, all links are available at expertaviator.com. Don't forget to sign up for our YouTube channel at Expert Aviator, and we'll have all the topics of the month there. Hey, I really encourage you to go to FAAsafety.gov. Check out some of the seminars if you're on the road that are in your area. You never know. They're all free. They're wonderful. Some terrific speakers. We'll talk to you on the next topic of the month for March 2015. Again, this is Carl Valeri, lead representative here at the Tampa FSDO.